Hallo Leute, ich bin Melissa und heute werde ich über Pimsleur sprechen. Seit 2 Wochen lerne ich Deutsch mit Pimsleur. Hier ist, was ich denke. Los geht's! In this video, I'll talk about what my current level of German is, because I think that's important to disclose, what Pimsleur is and why I decided to try it, give you some feedback on what I like and don't like about it, as well as whether or not I'd recommend it. And then at the end of the video, I'd also like to give you some tips and tricks on how you can improve your speaking outside of Pimsleur. Okay, so before we get too far into the video, I want to say that I'm definitely not a beginner in German. In college, I took 1 year of German classes, and I didn't really study. I remember in the second semester, I think I barely did any homework, and not because I was so good at it that I didn't have to do homework. I just didn't. I was too busy, I guess, because I was taking a bunch of difficult physics and chemistry classes for a major, like quantum mechanics, analytical chemistry, which has a double lab. I think I also took computational physics and general relativity that year. So yeah, I'd say those courses were kind of difficult at the time. So, you know, I wasn't trying that hard in my German class. And even outside of that, I just didn't really speak much German at that time. And so when we had to practice with each other in class, I was a wreck, just a mess. It was hard to speak, to say the least. However, obviously that doesn't mean that I'm starting off with a blank slate. I still absorbed a bunch of material up through the A2 level, so, you know, we'll just go with a solid A2 for now. Okay, so what is Pimsleur? It's an audio course designed by applied linguistics professor Paul Pimsleur. His research was focused on understanding the language acquisition process, and in particular, he was interested in how children seem to have this unique ability to speak a language without understanding its structure. So in the 1970s, he designed a cassette-based audio language program that has turned into what Pimsleur is today. With this method, you're given a new 30-minute audio lesson each day. At the start of each lesson, you're presented with a dialogue, which by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to fully understand and speak yourself. At first, the words are translated for you so that you can get a sense of what they mean. And then you're gradually asked to repeat individual words, phrases, and then entire sentences that will go right into the dialogue itself. So you will actually actively participate in the dialogue. And then later you'll be asked various questions to where those phrases and words that you use will be the answer. The Pimsleur method not only teaches you gradually, but it continues to mix things up and build off of vocab that you already learned so that it sticks by using spaced repetition in context, which obviously is not the same as doing spaced repetition flashcards where it's just individual words and it doesn't quite make sense without the context. Honestly, before I started this, I thought that audio language programs were complete bullshit. That's because my experience was with those ones where they just have you repeat individual words, you know, like those audio programs that say you can learn German in your sleep.
Good evening. Guten Abend. Guten Abend.
Plus, I always thought that I was a purely visual learner, and so I thought it would just be a waste of my time. But boy, was I wrong. Remember how earlier in the video I was saying that it was difficult for me to speak German when I was taking my college courses? Yeah, that has radically changed since I started Pimsleur. Unfortunately, I didn't record a before video, sorry, but it was definitely more along the lines of like, ich bin Melissa and das ist ein Apfel.
Ich bin Melissa.
You know, useless shit like that. Now, not only am I more confident in my speaking abilities, but I can say sentences like, was möchtest du Abendmorgen mit mir essen? Which, you know, is a reasonably complex 2-verb sentence. And that's something that I learned within like the first few lessons of Pimsleur. Whereas in my German classes, I don't think I learned that within like the first month or maybe even the first semester. So would I recommend it? Yes, definitely. Because not only does it take that long to do, but you can also do it while you're commuting to work, doing the dishes, taking a shower, etc. The app also has a few exercises that you can unlock after you finish the lesson, such as reading, flashcards, matching, pronunciation, and speed rounds that only take a minute or so each. You know, depending on how well you understand the language already and how well you feel like you've understood each of the lessons, you can decide whether or not you want to use those. I would say though, for beginners, it might be pretty useful to do the pronunciation ones, especially if this is one of your first contacts with a language. But even for anyone in general, I think reviewing the previous lesson's content for a couple minutes before you start the next lesson could be pretty useful. Is the app fun? Not really, I guess. It can get kind of boring and repetitive, but I also do try to make it more fun for myself by kind of giving a personality to what I'm saying in German. You know, for example, if a dialogue is starting to sound like maybe these people are going on a date, you know, I'll give it a little spice, like, möchten Sie heute Abend bei mir trinken? So this is an app that will probably force you to stretch your willpower just a little bit, but it's totally worth it, especially for beginners. But don't just take it from me. If you're familiar with the YouTuber Ikenna, he loves it and he swears by it for how he starts every single language that he learns. So stick with it, skip a day or two if it's just too boring for that day. If you stick with it, you'll really start to see yourself improve at a pretty decent rate. You're probably wondering though, is this free? And Pimsleur does have a free 7-day trial, which you can get in the link in the description below, but it is a paid service. And it sort of depends on what language you're learning for how much it costs, so let me explain that a little bit. German and other more popular languages have a subscription of $20 a month that gives you access to all those features that I mentioned earlier. Certain other languages like Albanian have a fixed cost because there aren't that many lessons and they don't have the extra features. So is it worth the money? Definitely, especially if you're gonna do the subscription version, because you can get through the entire level 1 and a few lessons of level 2 in a month plus that 7-day trial, meaning you get 37 lessons for just $20. So the more diligent you are with this, not only the more progress you're gonna make, but also the less money you're gonna spend, which can be a motivator in itself. Okay, so Pimsleur works, but what else can you do outside of Pimsleur to improve your speaking? For me, I try to express normal things that I would say in English in German instead. And luckily for me, I have a husband who speaks fluent German, among other languages, and so I can talk to him, which pretty convenient. The other day I asked him, "Möchtest du mit mir gehen?" And he was like, "Yeah, maybe later after I take my shower." And so once he was done, I said, "Bist du fertig mit mir gehen?" And apparently I said that wrong because fertig, I learned it as meaning ready, but it really means something closer to like completed or finished. It's a subtle distinction, but you know, he corrected me to say something more like, "Bist du bereit?" You know, it's really nice that I can get these mistakes corrected when they happen, and actually the opportunity to do that, it actually makes me speak more. But if you don't have a significant other that speaks your target language, that's fine. Try saying a phrase that you would normally say in English and just translate it into your target language. Every time you do this, write it down on a piece of paper, and then later in the day, you can review what you wrote down using Google Translate or another language resource that you would prefer to see how you did. You can also try a free app like HelloTalk, which is a social media that allows you to text or audio chat with people who speak your target language. italki is a great place where you can pay for tutoring lessons, and many people recommend this, but I have not personally tried it yet. Another thing you could try to do is while you're watching a show or a movie in your target language, you can pause it and try to continue the dialogue yourself by creating your own answer. But above all else, the only way to improve your speaking is just to speak. So keep trying. I hope you found this video helpful. If you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and you can subscribe. You can hit the bell icon if you're interested in seeing when my next video is uploaded. And in the link in the description below, I have a few other language resources for you, whether it's some printables that I have in my Etsy shop or an article that I wrote reviewing a bunch of different apps to figure out which ones you should use for your target language. All of those will be in the link in the description below. Bis nächste Woche. Tschüss. That was pretty good, actually. Okay. Und heute. Come on, get my face. That's probably good enough.